Okay, hello, and this final video here is going to be mostly about data forms. Before I do go there and look at a file, let's just talk about business logic and application logic. You probably can see from my previous videos that business logic is really just a whole bunch of queries and code that's written against the database. So it can do all that without any forms or anything like that, using mostly the SQL Builder. But sometimes I'll use a table wrapper if it's a simple piece of business logic and only needs one table. But this one's a lot more handy for the business logic. And the application logic generally doesn't hit the database, but it sometimes does, because a lot of times what I'll do is I'll create a database called application tables for things like error logging and a flag to set so that I know whether the database is in development mode, staging mode, or production mode. Just a simple little flag in a table somewhere. So I often set stuff up like that. So the application logic is mostly about error handling, but it has to stash those error messages in a table. So that can all be done through these. Now, the next place I'm going to go, though, is I'm going to show you how I can make a data form, and the same concepts apply to reports. I can make a form that I don't need a DAO table link to make it work. So let's go there and see that. Okay, so here I am in demo files. I went all the way up from 6 to 2. I skipped over all these and went right to the second folder. And I have this one in here called sample form. So let me open that up. And I just made a form based on the customers table. Now notice there's no table link in here. It says all access objects. So let me go ahead and open the form. And once the form is open, it's a blank form. And by the way, I would write a custom ribbon for this so that I have things like edit, delete, add new, navigation stuff up in the ribbon. I can even make ribbon menus so that you can have special commands or reports associated with the customer. I also just realized I didn't update the caption to this form. This should actually have that part trimmed off, but that's not a big deal. But they got a drop-down combo box here for selecting the record, and you can see it's already populated. So you might be asking, well, where did that population come from? Normally you'd see a query out here that says something like about record set or row source or something like that. But it's already populated. Now when I select one of these records, it goes out and fetches that record and populates these fields for me. And these are, by the way, these are updatable fields. These are fully editable. If I edit this record and go back to, if I were to go back to SQL Server and check that record, you'll see it will have changed. So it's fetching a updatable DAO record set and assigning it to the record set property of this form. And how it's doing that? Well, you can probably already guess. Let me hit Alt F11. It came up in the table wrappers file already, but this is a connection to another file through tools references. You see I have, oops, wait a minute, I'm in the wrong thing. If I click here on the database I'm working on, tools references, you see there's table wrappers. So it points right to that table wrappers file I was just showing you a couple videos ago. And then when I deliver this database, I have to have some code that changes that from the one that points on my drive to one that points on their drive. In other words, that file gets delivered, this file gets delivered with this file, and then the reference is updated so that it works properly. It's not too hard to do. It's pretty easy. But let me go ahead and open up the code for this form that we're looking at over here on this side. So what it does is when the form loads, I have these variables, and I'm working in twos, just like I did in the table wrappers video. Whenever you're working against an interface in VBA, it's a nice little handy cheat to just give in and say, I know I'm going to be using 2 object variables instead of 1. If you don't do that, then what you have to do is you have to write code in this object variable, this class module, where you have a public name that matches the private name that then is part of the interface that you're implementing. It's kind of confusing, and one day I realized, oh, if you just use 2 variables, boy, it's a lot easier. Just give into it. So I have this set of variables to open the customer's record itself, which I can populate the form and the select record dropdown. See, this is populated from that same record set, right? So I have a record set for that and the record itself that it goes out and gets. And in addition to that, I have one for the contacts table so that I can populate this right here. Okay, so then when the form loads, it basically just sets all that up. It runs something down here called load drop-down lists, which just creates the records and then sets the record set of those objects to the record set that you're getting back. So easy peasy, and not much code to set it all up and get it to work. And it works pretty good. This is the way I design most forms. And I can also do reports in a similar way. There's a slightly different approach, but it works the same way. You go out and get the records through your interaction with these two tables, and then you simply assign those record sets to the record set property of either the data form, a report, or a drop-down list, or a list box, or list box, or whatever. It works pretty well. So I hope that these demonstrations have shown you that I know SQL Server very well, I know Access very well, and I know VBA very well.